Not have a quorum, we will proceed, and every action will be deemed a communique from the chair. Let us start off with our consent calendar, items 1 through 5. You can read item 1.
All right, item 1, Los Angeles Housing Department report and resolution relative to adoption of TEFRA resolution and minutes for the La Coruña Senior Apartments, Dunbar Village, and Vineland Senior Housing projects.
Okay, we'll adopt the LAHD report and resolution on that item. Okay, and number 2, we'll just put number 2 on limbo for a little while. We'll go to number 3.
Number 3, LAHD report and City Administrative Officer report relative to authority to appropriate grant funds and create accounts to implement the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development grant for the lead hazard remediation program.
Okay, we'll adopt the CAO report on that. Item 4.
CRA and CLA reports relative to contracts for as-needed land survey and mapping services with 9 firms. Contracts are in an aggregate amount not to exceed $4 million for a 3-year term with option to renew for 2 additional 1-year periods.
Okay, we'll adopt the CLA report on that. Item 5.
City Attorney reports an ordinance relative to adding, amending, and repealing sections of the Utility Maintenance Program, in Article 5, Chapter 15 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code to improve the administration of and to replace references to the rent escrow account with
Okay, we'll adopt the City Attorney report in a draft ordinance. So these items will be deemed a communique from the chair. If we don't have a quorum, we'll hold item 2 for a while. And that brings us to item 6.
Item 6, motion Perry Garcetti relative to CRA to provide a report of its activities regarding any legislative and administrative efforts to implement the governor's proposal to eliminate all redevelopment agencies.
Okay, well, can I ask all of those folks to come forward? You're alone? You're a one-man wrecking crew?
Yes, sir. I apologize. Ms. Essel wanted to be here today, but she's actually on her way to Sacramento.
I wonder why.
Yeah, there seems to be a little issue. Today could be the day that the Assembly and or Senate could vote. Of course, changes minute by minute, so it may be Friday. Who knows? But certainly wanted to bring the committee up to speed on where we are today. And I'm just going to start from, if it's okay, from after the co-op agreement that we had at council, because obviously I think Chris and Cal gave a pretty good update for that. Assembly has AB 101, Senate has SB 77 in front of them, which are the the legislation to end redevelopment. SB 77 was taken up in front of Assembly and did not get 2/3 vote. Came up 1 vote short of that. 3 Republicans chose not to vote at all, so it was a 53-23 vote or something, and 3 no vote and 3 not votes. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to figure out, obviously on the Assembly side, how to get that 2/3 so that they can make the changes to the tax code, which would allow them to eliminate redevelopment and then redistribute the tax increment. Short of that, there's some serious questions as to how they would be able to reallocate tax increment, property taxes to the state budget, et cetera. And so right now it seems that in the Assembly, obviously they're right on the razor's edge. The governor believes he'll probably find that 1 vote. We probably believe he'll find that 1 vote to get to 2/3. But in the Senate, it's a completely different topic. Senate seems to be more of the opinion that there's a different solution to it, and they're having a tougher time getting to that 2/3. First of all, from the 5 Republicans, the GOP 5 that are discussing the big issues of taxes and redevelopment, enterprise zones. Plus, there are several Democratic members who are leery of eliminating completely Senator Wright, Senator Yee, San Francisco, and Senator Padilla, who have questions about the option of elimination. So right now, the California Redevelopment Association has a proposal that is floating. It has gotten the buy-off from the League of Cities, Whether that helps or not is a question, but it's at least it's gotten the focal point of all the redevelopment agencies, which has been a challenge so far in trying to get the big cities and the small cities to kind of be on the same page as to.
I would roll the League of Cities every week when I was Speaker. Just roll them.
Yeah.
Are there any more allies lying in the woods?
Yeah.
That help? You mentioned the Senator Wright and a few. I mean, how's this going over with them?
And their request is that we try to drum up some of that support in the Assembly that they have in the Senate for this CRA proposal, California Redevelopment Association proposal, because it does give the state the money it's looking for this year in a voluntary kind of opt-in measure that doesn't violate Prop 22 and creates future year funding for schools and by doing that create some backfill opportunity for the state to take some of its money out of the process. So the Senator Wright, Senator Yee, Senator Padilla see this as a win-win, where redevelopment stays, we figure out how to find the fiscal savings, but also you can add the reform piece that, again, we're certainly supportive of from our agency. We believe that we get under such scrutiny from council, from press, that some of those things that aren't happening in other areas, some of the reforms could be added that won't affect us, but maybe make the state feel a little more secure about how redevelopment is operating.
So we've just been joined by Councilman Richard Alarcon. Tell me a little more about this proposal that they've.
So at the moment, the Redevelopment Association's proposal takes the housing set-aside that is due to come for 2011-2012 tax increment money and would redirect that to the state, either via schools, and then the state could then back out its money, or to the state.
And how much is that? What are we talking about?
$1 billion up to $1.2 billion. The state is looking for a carve out of about $1.7 billion. There's also some idea that to get to that full to score that full $1.7 billion, the state could sweep unused housing money from bad actors who haven't used their money in 4, 5, 6 years, and that would get us that full score of $1.7 billion. The current legislation that the governor is proposing, we've pretty much debunked the idea that there's $1.7 billion there. That if you ended us today, and all redevelopment associations, based on debt available, the debt that you would have to cover, they would be pulling somewhere about half that, maybe 700 million, maybe 800 million. So we're trying to show that you can cover at least $1 billion in this opt-in version, plus if you sweep housing set-asides that other redevelopment agencies haven't used their money, you could score the full $1.7 billion, take care of that issue for this year, and then what it would do in future years is allow the redevelopment agencies to take a percentage and add that to schools, and it would extend, you could get an extension of a year or so for every percentage you went up. So if you could do a full 10% to schools, then you would get an extra 10 years of life to make that redevelopment area whole. Schools would get money in the end. It would probably score, I wanted to say it was like $3 billion over the, an extra 1.3 over what the governor thought he would do over that kind of 10-year span.
So at this juncture, though, it's in the infancy stages. It's not like there's a lot of traction. And I thought I heard you say that some of our friends in the Senate suggested that we try to get support on the Assembly side. How are we going about trying to get that support?
The mayor's office, our senior staff have been calling allies, trying to work, calling in the housing advocates who have been big supporters to, make the pitch to the assembly. There are folks that understand and seem to be supportive in the assembly, but the speaker's doing a good job of doing his job of keeping his votes in line. And so even though we seem to have folks who are like, well, yeah, I could, but, before the vote on SB 77 in the assembly, we had about 3 Democratic members who were holding out and not voting. But I think the governor came down from his office, the the speaker came from his office, and then all 3 votes went the way all the Democrats had to go. And that was, all the Democrats voted for it, and Assemblymember Norby, who has made his whole career on anti-redevelopment from the
Orange
Republican
County
side. Yeah.
supervisor. Yeah.
So, but there's three holdout Republicans in the assembly. Assemblymember Nilsson from Northern California, Assemblymember from San Luis Obispo, Achado, and then there was one from Fountain Valley who are still holding out. And it's their votes that will be the critical 2/3 for the state to redirect the tax.
So what is this talk that I hear about, we'll dismantle the agencies today and come up with a new, we will amend it.
End it to amend it.
Yes.
Has been kind of the rally cry, and we've tried to find out what is the amend.
Yes.
What is that version that comes out? It doesn't seem there is a version, and from my own personal perspective, it looks like it's a rally cry just to get the votes, and then it'll kind of fall off the table because there really isn't.
I think they might try to come up with.
It just seems as if.
But I agree with you.
If you lose the funding, if you kill the funding to it, how do you get that funding back and get it rolling again? It would be tough. And maybe there is a way to do it. And maybe the state picks project by project. Maybe they pick things that are state interest. I mean, Port of LA, does that become something where or the airports or things surrounding, economic engines? Certainly that's some of the things we've heard.
Every agency just about in the state has done something similar to what we did a few weeks ago. Have you heard any talk about, what's legal, what's not, how we defend, how they're going to attack?
Yeah, the AB 101 and SB 77 both give the state 2 years to challenge any contract that the agency has entered into since January 1. So they're going to challenge, obviously, the validity of any and specifically they call out any contract between the agency and one of the forming entities. So they're calling those as the questionable ones. So obviously any contracts between CRA and the City of LA are going to be highlighted on their list of to review, and I assume they'll be going after, obviously that's where the big windfall is. If you challenge the nearly a billion that we have, 1.2 billion in Long Beach, 4 billion in San Diego, San Francisco, Oakland. And that's one of the key things that we're also working on in Sacramento, besides the going after Save CRA. The language that exists in SB 77 and AB 101 to deal with the successor entity that the city would have to become in order to get its distribution of tax increment has some seriously dangerous language for the city, in that it could put the general fund in at liability for actions that are taken. So we are working hard, the mayor's office is especially taking a strong look at this, because what happens is this oversight board that's formed out of AB 101 and SB 77 is a 7-member board formed almost entirely of county and school district people who are going to approve budgets, approve contracts, approve things,
And we have like one
right.
appointee.
You get one appointment, which is for the city council and/or the mayor, at this point. And if the city chooses to accept a contract or accept a debt, and the oversight board made up of this county, these county folks decide that it's not, then who's liable for that? Is the city liable? And if the city's liable, is the general fund have to pay it out? So there's some seriously dangerous language in, besides the elimination, the city it should be concerned about that, and that's a big issue, which I know the mayor and the city's lobbyist, Mr. Antwi, have been focusing on hard, and I know all 10 mayors, the big 10 mayors got together, and the one thing they could agree on was how dangerous some of this language was for all of them to be successor entities with the current language in the bills.
But if it appears that there would be a way that we can shield our money, at least for a while, as this legal debate goes on, and I would think that might give us some leverage where it relates to negotiating some kind of alternative, because in the event we were to win,
right,
then they would not be able to score a lot of dough.
Yes, it really put them in a serious problem. And again, if at the time of a vote, there's a lot of legal challenges that all sides, League, California Redevelopment Association, the city, all have on all of the county even has, once they go to take any of the money, whether it's Prop 22, Prop 1A, or Section 16 of the Constitution, how they redirect the funds will cause some serious problems. Now, if they go to this majority bill and just go to eliminate redevelopment, at that point, and they don't try to score the money, they could do that by majority vote and obviously end redevelopment.
But see, how long before that would take effect?
Well, that's a question, and whether if they did it in normal session, would it take effect January 1, or do they recess to a special session where they take it up in a majority vote and then end it in 90 days, as I understand would be the process, or a way of doing it. And then that way they still can end it by July 1. Then the question becomes, okay, what about the money? And it may just come as a distribution back to the taxing entities, though then they'd have to score another $1.7 billion that they... So there would be some question, even on tax increment, because they wouldn't have ended tax increment via the 2/3 vote. How can you take the tax increment and put it back to the taxing entities without that? So there really is some serious questions. And the last thing I saw was now the governor is saying he still wants to negotiate on getting the taxes, which all of this will be part of, but they may be pushing for a November ballot.
Well, that's where you have to get signatures.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess still, though, he's the key, and if he doesn't want to do it, he just doesn't want to do it. But, he's discovering that this is not as easy as he may have thought that it was going to be.
Yeah, I think this was one of the, he didn't think he was going to have the big fight here. And certainly, he probably obviously figured the tax extensions would be the big fight, but, just trying to get through redevelopment has been probably trying for his staff. And
Okay, we've been joined by Councilwoman Jan Perry, and I'll open it up if you guys have questions. Ms. Perry?
Yeah, quick question. Has our lobbyist, to your knowledge, made any effort to renegotiate a higher pass-through amount to the schools as an alternative, and what was the response?
We've had, there have been several coming from different cities. Ours, via the California Redevelopment Association's proposal, that is one of the proposals, and the State Senate has found it to be kind of a good win-win situation. Not having that same response on the Assembly side yet. They've held by one vote, but we're still showing trying to get the Redevelopment Association's proposal, which has greater pass-throughs to schools, trying to find some traction there in the Assembly. It has found it in the Senate, but
So it's still on the table, at least
correct.
in one house.
Yeah, and the Senate seems to be actively trying to find a way to make that solution work.
And with respect to the successor entity, what opportunities are for us to negotiate another seat?
Well, and I think Councilmember Wesson brought up a good point that first of all, I think the mayor's office and they're using the city's lobbyist has been actively trying to show, and the Big Ten mayors have shown that there's some really dangerous language in that. So they have been pursuing all of the members on that. But at such time as we file a lawsuit, which is imminent if they pass the bills, it could also provide another opportunity for cleanup language, for them to amend the formation of that group, because it really is just, 6 out of 7 members being related to the county or the school districts is.
Right. And do you know what the rationale was for creating that kind of a balance?
Well, I would say that, in my opinion, it's because those are 6 votes that really don't like redevelopment. So it would assure the board is someone who will be extremely conservative when making decisions about how to budget, future debt and future contracts, lawsuits, etc. So, they made sure that it wouldn't be, because cities obviously would have
So let
a
me
vested
ask you
interest.
this, is for the language in the bills as they were written in the, I guess it's called the rational basis or whatever, rationale, what did they write?
I don't recall the exact language.
Do you remember generally what their logic was behind this?
Well, the people most impacted, their general reason was obviously counties and schools have been suffering from the disinvestment of tax dollars. So
It's the usual argument that they use when they sue to stop the creation of a new redevelopment area.
correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
All right, so then you're saying that there's...
Let me jump in for 1 second. You should send the Senate and Assembly analysis to all of the members so that they
Okay.
can read it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Absolutely.
That would be great. So what you're saying then is there's still some opportunity to negotiate on both fronts?
Yes. Today, and obviously it changes minute by minute, and Ms. Essel is in Sacramento today because we heard today would be the day that they vote on it. That may be now Friday, but we're pushing hard today and tomorrow on members who have shown some willingness to listen and, come up with a rational solution to it. And so we are pushing hard on both fronts in the Senate and the Assembly.
I just don't think they're going to buck the governor. I think he's the linchpin on this, the key. And
Well, with both houses being,
I think somebody needs to take another run, that the Big Ten mayors should take another run at him. That's one of the things that I would do, because, again, things aren't going the way that he had hoped they would go, so maybe there's an opportunity, maybe not. Richard, did you have anything? Okay. With that said, we do have a quorum now. So on that item, without objection, we will adopt the motion, which is a Perry Garcetti motion. That brings us back to item 2, which I think, Ms. Perry, you had an amendment, or?
Yeah, this is,
So if we could read item 2, and then Councilmember Perry can, move.
Okay. Item 2, CRA reports relative to the fiscal year 2010-11 AB 1290 status report.
okay, what I wanted to do today was to make a motion allocating $1.4 million in Bunker Hill AB 1290 funds to the Dunbar Village project. The Dunbar Village project will result in 81 units of affordable housing for families and seniors, and will include the renovation of the historic Dunbar Hotel. Now, these funds are vital to the project and have been fully accounted for. And last week, when the CRA transferred the AB 1290 funds to the city to administer, this allocation was left out, and that's why this amendment is necessary today. So if I could
Okay,
get a second on that.
so why don't we adopt the CAO report with this amendment? Would that be the proper action?
It's actually a CRA report. There's no staff report.
I thought I didn't say CRA?
CRA.
Okay.
Well, I thought
My bad.
No. Okay, we have one public comment card. Elizabeth Saldera, please come forward if you're here.
Mr. Chair, before you do that, do you want to
Yeah.
go back to the other items that were
Okay.
considered when we didn't have a
Go
quorum?
ahead. I had forgotten that. So
Mr. Chair.
before you guys got here, we acted on items 1, 2, 4, and 5. We did it as a communique from the chair. If there's no objections from the other members, we'll just, without objection, we'll deem those items approved.
Mr. Chair, item 3 also.
Item 3? Oh, and item 3 as well. Please come forward.
Mr. Chair, one more thing. For item 2, the CRA reports were status reports, so does the committee would like to receive and file those status reports, and then also
Yes.
take in
Yes.
the transfer instruction?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Good morning, Mr. Woodson.
Morning.
Good morning, Housing Committee. My name is Elizabeth Saldivar, and I'm here to bring great concern for the community members that live in Los Angeles. And I dare to speak on behalf of the city Angelinos. My concern, sir, is that Los Angeles Housing Department has been going through inspections when tenants call. They open and close cases without making sure that the repairs are done. And I am specifically here to speak in regards to El Corazon Apartments, which is owned and operated by New Capital. New Capital is owned by Beatriz Alvera Sotzer, who is also the Housing Authority Commissioner for City of Los Angeles Housing Authority and Section 8. And it appears that there's a conflict of interest. But my concern is going to go back to the Los Angeles Housing Department, where we have submitted several complaints. Even the San Fernando Fair Housing had a press release where a lot of tenants went to discuss these issues. I would like to request an investigation due to the wrongdoings of the Los Angeles Housing Department in regards to hearings and the way hearings are proceeded through, where tenants are not allowed to provide evidence and submit evidence in hearings.
You mean the commission hearings?
The general manager's hearings for the Los Angeles Housing Department. And I would like to request a meeting on the site to continue to speak about this matter, because it is a serious matter. It does affect the housing and the city, and it needs to be addressed. I have a lot of evidence and I have a lot of records, not only for myself but for other tenants. And I would like to continue with this, and my time is up, and I'll be waiting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
This committee is adjourned.